What this trial is about is claims for false imprisonment, assault and damage to property, and the main issues are, were the police entitled to make the arrests that they did make on the 1st of June 1985, particularly the arrests of these 26 plaintiffs? If they were, did they use unlawful force in making those arrests? And did they commit acts of unlawful damage to people's vehicles and property, both at the time of the arrests and later?
This is the front of the convoy. There are 150 vehicles behind me. The women and children have been left at Savernake Forest. They're all heading for Stonehenge. That's 18 miles away.
I wasn't aware of it at the time that it took place, but I later became aware that really the whole of the Wiltshire establishment had sat down to decide what to do about the convoy. And this involved various landowners and the county council and the police and their solicitors. And it was a question really for them that they didn't want these people coming into Wiltshire and occupying the area around Stonehenge, but there wasn't really a law that enabled them to keep the convoy out. So it was a question of taking advice to find some kind of legal cloak to throw around the operation which they wanted to launch. And so they came up with this business of the civil injunctions to justify all that then happened. And it seems to me still highly questionable whether what happened was really lawful.
We're prepared for any contingency which may arise, and although I've told you how many men I've got available, I've also got maximum cooperation of my neighbouring chief constables that they're prepared to assist me if I require that aid.
I think a few people were aware of this thing called a High Court injunction, but people just felt that if they did come across the police that probably they would be advised or forcefully told to go somewhere else, and that's what they would do, and then everything would still be all right. But nobody had the slightest idea of the ambush, capture and violence that was intended.
Don't worry about a thing. Every little thing gonna be alright.
Negotiations started with the police, and they were not prepared to let us go on any further, and in fact we were to hand ourselves in, or they'd be bothered. Well, we told them there and then that there's no way were people going to hand themselves in, and then the order was sent out by the high-ranking Bobby to arrest all the drivers. And of course, this line of riot bobbies had shot out along down the side of us and started smashing in the windows.
I was sort of alert and thinking, oh, what's going to happen now, you know, and I just watched them go down the side of the vehicle up ahead. And I could see this going as they were coming down the side, and I'm thinking, oh, well, you know, for crying out loud, what's going on here? I went, no, and screamed up, just tell me what you want me to do. And I reached all over the windscreen like this, because he was there first, and then he was hitting there, and then this one here was hitting at the window, and I put my hands up against the window here, and I said, just tell me what you want me to do. And there's a crash and a bang and a wallop from behind me, and there's shouting, and they're banging on the sides of the ambulance, and they're shouting.
One of the police reached in through that broken side window, the passenger window, and grabbed a handful of hair. I couldn't see clearly into the vehicle from where I was standing. I was some little distance off, but it was very clear to me that he had hold of the top of her hair and was pulling very vigorously. She, of course, was screaming blue murder, not wanting to be pulled, because what she was being pulled through was a window that had been broken 10 seconds earlier, which was framed as broken glass.
We knew there would be a confrontation. I'm hoping that we'll get through the day without too many people being injured, either policemen or peace convoy, or the people in the field.
Has the operation gone as you expected?
Yes, I think so.
During the 1970s, the late 70s, more and more people started to live on vehicles. Previous to that, most people had lived in benders or teepees and just used the vehicles to transport themselves and their possessions from one place to another. But eventually it became obvious that it would be good to actually live in the vehicles themselves. And during the years of between 1979 and 1982 or 3, the numbers of people living in vehicles increased by a huge proportion. Because it did seem a sensible way of life, and obviously when there are a lot of people living like that, it would also make sense for them to move from one place to another together. But this was no more than just people who enjoyed the same lifestyle wanting to be with their friends. It wasn't done in a way that, as the police might say, that people deliberately did it just to make some sort of opposition or a force or an army in some way to, you know, it was in no way that at all. It was just simply people who had the same values and the same lifestyle wanting to be with people who shared those values.